Okay, I hope you are audible. I'm not sure if it's working, guys. Can you really? Um, hmm, is it? Um, I hope you guys can hear me clearly. We're just waiting for more people to join so we can start. I'm just waiting for more people to join. Yes, hello, Jafar. How are you? Okay, so just waiting. We're just waiting for others to join. I'm hoping that this will be much better than the meet session because the meet was having too many issues. Okay, so let me just maybe it's okay. So, what are the things that you guys really want to work on? Mm, okay, cool, 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 cool. Okay. No, I'm not gonna play game today. I'm just going to maybe later, sometime. Chess maybe, but not today. Okay, cool. Okay, what? Yes, I love God of War. I've played all God of Wars except maybe the one on PSP. I don't know which one was that. Okay. Uh, let's see. Now come to the fish. Yeah, this. Value judgment. Yeah, we will discuss value judgment. Who is this? Who needs a shout out? What's your name? I'll give you a shout out. Okay, it's okay. So first, we are going to cover the most, the basic ways of covering the exam, and then I'll cover all these things, the value judgments and everything, and then finally, if you have any questions, I'm going to share a sheet with you guys at the end of the session so that you can then uh, then we can you can share your questions, and then we can do the question and answer session tomorrow. Okay. So I'm just going to wait like 5 more minutes before people can join. There are still some people who I am waiting for. Okay, because I'm unable to. Guys, kindly ask others to join. I'm waiting. We just have like 8 people now. We need more to join. Yes. Yes. so sad. Really? Okay, guys, we are starting. It's chill. Uh, so I think enough students who have anyone who wanted to join has joined already. If anyone else joins, they can always see the recording. Uh, so just give me one last second. I'm gonna post it. Okay, guys. So let's start with the written examination. I hope you can all hear me clearly, right? Am I completely audible? You have to, guys. Am I audible? Yes. Good. Now, so the written examination, it's the component one, global perspectives, 04572069. Both examinations have the same pattern, so it does not matter which one which you are attempting. It's the same thing. So let's start with the very basics. The exam time is 1 hour 25 minutes. Previously, it used to be 1 hour 15 minutes. So now you guys have 10 extra minutes. This is a good change, I believe, because many students were having issues with completing their paper on time. But that issue should not exist anymore. Exam marks are 70, which is 35% of your grade. 70 marks for group project and 60 for your individual report. That makes 200 marks. Now, let's start with the very basic questions. The very basic questions are the identification question in your examination. Usually they are given from source one and source two. They can be of different nature. For example, let's see, there are uh, two identification questions in this source. First one is how many cities monitor air pollution, and from source two, identify two advantages of using electric vehicles. There can also be one other form in which identification question can come. That form is basically when they are asking you to identify a pattern. That pattern could either be increasing, decreasing, or constant. Just there are only three ways a pattern is identified: increasing, ascending, decreasing, descending, or constant. So just keep an eye out for such a question. Let's see what's the answers are very simple. 6,000 cities, 6,000 cities, as you can see here, 6,000 cities around the world which monitor air pollution. And if you are going to write for question number two, it's very simple. The two advantages are they do not produce exhaust gas pollution and are less noisy. Or you can write it like this: no exhaust gas pollution, less noisy. Both are correct. You will get full marks in both the cases. Coming to the next question, this is the significance question. The significant question can be asked in many ways. It can ask you to elaborate on the significance of a reason, an impact, a cause, a consequence, an advantage, a disadvantage, and then they are going to ask you to justify your choice. Uh, Previously, this question used to be 4 marks, but now it is 8 marks. That means, is the presentation not visible, guys? Some student just complained that the presentation is not visible. Then I'm not sure what Abbas is saying. This is weird. Okay. In any case, so if such a question comes for you, for example, let's say uh, source 1 and 2 suggest the consequences of unemployment due to e-commerce. Which consequence of e-commerce on unemployment do you think is more significant? Explain why. Now, there are uh, many. The most common mistake that students commit here is that they uh, choose multiple consequences instead of choosing just one consequence. For example, let's say there are five consequences, one, two, three, four, five. Instead of choosing just one, they would go for multiple consequences. That's a mistake. You don't have to do it. Now, let's see the answer. I believe worker exploitation is the most significant consequence of e-commerce on employment. Worker exploitation mostly affects workers who are down the order, meaning that they are already pressured by upper management. This just further adds to it. The exploitation can take many forms, from paying limited wages to getting extra hours out of workers. It can further more increase the mental pressure on workers, affecting their health. Too much work also adds a physical toll, which can be harmful in the long term. Workers who are exploited also have other fields of their life impacted by this, like their personal relations, their family life, etc. It also creates a vicious cycle, meaning that when exploited workers get in positions of power, then they are more likely to behave in the same way to their subordinates. Finally, it's a consequence that further creates more consequences, like economic inequalities and concentration of wealth, which many people might even quit and become unemployed due to this pressure. Now, you have to give 4 to 5 reasons in support of your choice. Here we have given like 6, 7, so more likely full marks. Examiner is not going to cut any mark here. Going to the next type of question. Now, this is again you can't see the answer. That's what you're saying. Okay. So maybe the there is some lag. I'll see if I can better that situation. Okay, so can you see it now? Can you see it now? Okay, good. Just I think there is some lag regarding the stream, so it's fine. Now, coming to the next question, which is basically the perspective question. Now, in this question, examiner is going to ask you to explore a certain personal, organizational, local, national, international, or even a group of people's perspectives. The perspective is already mentioned in the source, but you have to interpret it properly. Now, let's take the example of this source. In this source, a food charity gives us certain uh, a certain perspective, and then later we are asked in the question to elaborate it. Let's see. Dynamics arising. Okay, 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 okay. Now, if we are to focus on the answer of this question, we is the answer now avail is the answer visible now this time, guys? Let me know if the answer is visible. Great. Now, the food. Okay, great. The food charity aims to rid the world of hunger. They realized that increasing food prices, which are a result of pandemics and food shortages, are only adding to the already existing world hunger issue. If people and organizations don't take proper action, then many more people will be affected by this plight. They are urging people to take care for others and contribute towards their cause. They're also elaborating the consequences of hunger for people and how these consequences seep to other walks of their lives. Finally, they want people to come together for this issue as they realize that collective action is a better solution for this problem. So this is uh, so you understand what the requirement here is. The requirement here is not to basically just regurgitate what the charity is saying, but actually interpret their point of views, interpret what they are trying to say, and then write it in your own words. What message they are trying to give, what issues they are facing, what are the causes and consequences of the problem that they are elaborating, and what is the action that they are asking people to commit towards. So that's just what this particular perspective question is. Now, there is something else that I want to tell you here, that the perspective question can also come in combination with consequences and causes. Basically, what the examiner can ask you is that what are the causes and consequences of globalization at national level, or how food charity affects a person at a how food charity has impacts on personal level. Food charity, I'm saying, sorry, food hunger, how food hunger has impacts on personal level. What are the, let's say, causes of climate change from a global point of view. So be ready, be prepared for these types of questions. However, the most likely way that this question is going to come is the one that we have already covered. This one. This is the most likely way that this question is going to come. Got it? Just gonna see if there are any more questions. I don't teach but students. I don't know. Marking schemes. So you want me to tell people how they are marked? I'll see if you can. I'll share the sheet. I'll share the question sheet at the end of the session, and then you can add all of these questions there. So I can cover this in tomorrow's session. Whatever your requirements are, I'll try to do this. Okay. Now, coming to the next question, let's see. That is the strengths and weaknesses question. This question is, you need to focus. This question has changed. The pattern of this question has changed. Before, the question used to be that examiner used to say, give you a claim, and then they would say that what are the strengths and weaknesses of the argument supporting this claim. I have seen that in many cases, some teachers are still teaching the old pattern, and that's not okay, I think, because we have been told from almost 9 months now that from 2025 the new pattern is going to come. So before, what it used to be that they are going to they were you were given a claim, and you were supposed to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the argument supporting the claim. Now the examiner shows you a research, like a research that maybe a student is carrying out, maybe a person is carrying out, maybe someone, uh, a scientist is carrying out, and then they are going to ask you to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of that research. The strengths and weaknesses of the research do overlap, with the strengths and weaknesses of the argumentation. However, there are certain additions, and the way you approach the question is different. Now let's see how you approach the question. First, let me tell. Can you see the sample answer? If you can see the sample answer, guys, can you see the sample answer? Good. Now let's see. The research has more weaknesses as compared to strengths. Always say this. Always say this. Always say this should be the first line. Whether you feel that there are more weaknesses or more strengths, then always mention that in the very first line. Then the whatever you think is more. If you think there are more weaknesses, then start by mentioning the weaknesses. If you think there are more strengths, then start by mentioning the strengths. Like, first of all, the research methods are limited to interviews, which means that the scope of research is very limited and the type of data acquired would also be very limited. You can also use much more complicated terminology here. Like, for example, you can say that the researcher did not go for triangulation. People who have studied sociology would know what triangulation is. Basically, using multiple research methods to actually make sure that your research has less weaknesses. But even this is fine. There is no research question which could have given a direction to the overall research. There were disturbances when the interviewer was taking place, meaning the data could be incomplete, like he mentioned here, they were difficult to hear. Then there were furthermore, the sample size is so small, there is no way to cross check and analyze the data. The interviewee had an obvious bias and vested interest as well, which further reduces the authenticity of the research. For example, let's say the he just consulted one person, and that person works for the charity. So like, that just means that that person is obviously going to be biased. The information is also an extract from a student's diary, which is a weakness as well. Finally, there's no statistical or factual evidence included to strengthen up the research findings. Now, you could also add further more weaknesses here, but I think these are more than enough. You can add that there is no consultation with an NGO, there is no consultation of international data, United Nations, or any other international organization is not referenced in any way. But still, again, I think these are more than enough weaknesses. Now, let's go to the other part. Always do that. Even if I was giving, I think yesterday we discussed that if you are unable to find any strength, then just say that his line of reasoning is good. And if you are unable to find any weakness, then just say that his language is informal. So always mention some weaknesses. For example, here, however, the research also has some strengths. First of all, the research was conducted after obtaining ethical permission from the manager. There is a clear aim of the research, and during the interview, the researcher kept taking notes to ensure the data doesn't get lost. The resource person is personally involved in the issue and has had personal experience in the field. There is also a quotation added from the interview, which adds to the strengths of the research. Now, this is again, these are not too many strengths, but still, it's better to give a perspective of both sides, which is good. Now, coming to the next question, which is testing a claim. This question remains same except for just one change. First, we need to understand the nature of this question. What is the examiner asking? Examiner is simply asking you that if this scenario was presented to you in real life, how would you test it? How would you go about researching it? How would you ensure that this claim is correct or incorrect? What the examiner is not asking you is to basically test the claim yourself, basically give your opinion on the claim, refer to something that you might know about the topic. No, you don't have to do any of these things. And well, while yes, the claim is taken from the source, the answer has nothing to do with the source. It is a very open-ended question. The change is that before, the examiner asked you to focus on the sources of evidence, the types of information, and methods. Now, just evidence and methods. This is a very good change. I've been saying this for more than 3 to 5 years now, 3 to 4 years now, that types of information and sources of evidence always overlap. So that is why this is a good change. Let's consult this particular answer. Let's consult this particular answer. Uh, Most people enjoy growing their own food. Explain how this claim could be tested. You should consider the research methods and evidence that would be used. This claim could be tested in a variety of ways. We can approach relevant experts of the field, people who grow their own food, for example, farmers, and ask them whether they enjoy doing so or not. The individual testimony of these experts would be a strong indicator of the validity of this claim. We can Is the answer not visible? This is the answer. Is it not visible, guys? I've changed the slide. Is the answer not visible, guys? I changed the slide. It's just that there is some lag which doesn't allow, which is an issue. Okay. No, this is the answer. This question has nothing to do with the source. Okay, let's move forward. The individual testimony of these experts would be a strong indicator of the validity of this claim. We can create a questionnaire or a survey online to research a bigger sample. Statistical analysis of the responses can be used to test this claim as well. Observing the attitudes of people who grow their own food can also be a good indicator towards confirming or rejecting the claim. Coming towards secondary research methods, articles on the internet relevant to the topic can give a good idea to a researcher, but in order to solidify his conclusion, it's important to review research reports and case studies published by official authorities and governments. This also gives attention to data. Data from pressure groups, charities, and NGOs is also valuable in this case, as it can give an outsider perspective to the research. So, if we combine the quantitative and qualitative data and information that has been extracted through these methods, it should provide us with enough evidence to test this claim that whether most people enjoy growing their food or not. Okay, so you write it in this way where you are covering multiple sources of evidence through multiple methods, and I don't see any reasons where you cannot get full marks in this question. There are many students who have who easily get 8 marks out of 8 in this question, because once you get the gist of this question, it becomes easier to actually uh, follow. Okay, so I'm just going to ask that, are you clear till now? When will it end? I'll try to end it in a at around maybe 1:30, 1:30, 1:45, maybe more. Okay. Now, coming to the next part, let's see. Now, the evaluation of argument question. Now, these the in the last two questions, the patron becomes absolutely important. In the last two questions, the pattern becomes absolutely important. Why? Because uh, what happens is that while students do understand what are strengths, what are weaknesses, they are also able to get which argument is more convincing. The way they attempt this question is unclear. The examiner is unable to follow their uh, the examiner is unable to follow their reasoning. Examiner is able to follow their structure, and that's how you lose marks. I always say that the best way to attempt this question is first, in the very first line, you mention which argument is more convincing. Now, followed by the evaluation of the argument which you found convincing. You give, you focus on their strengths, and at the end, maybe give one or two weakness. Yeah, what's with the slide issue? I think I'm gonna use Canva from next for the next session. This is PPT is having issues. Okay. Uh, Now, followed by the second paragraph, and the second paragraph is basically that you have to now evaluate the argument of the person that you did not find convincing, and then you focus on their weaknesses, but at the end give one or two strengths as well, and then give a conclusion. Let's try to see if this answer covers that. I believe Seth's argument is more convincing as compared to Gray's. First of all, he used a variety of evidence to support his argument. For example, he mentioned case studies on two different countries from a magazine. He also mentions a reputable organizations. United Nations also support his point of view on the topic. Furthermore, he gives examples of a country, South Africa, to strengthen his case. He has a clear stance on the topic and he uses relevant examples and strong argumentation to back it up. His line of reasoning is clear and effective, and he's also enthusiastic about the issue, as can be seen from his last two lines where he's pushing everyone to take action. However, there are also some weaknesses in argument. He doesn't consider the global scenario, which means a lack of global perspective on the topic. At times, he has huge generalization in his over enthusiasm, and many of his evidence is not properly referenced, which takes away some authenticity from it. Now, coming to Grace, there is very little use of evidence to support her claim, as she relies on opinions for the most part. She also assumes a lot of things without mentioning any proper reasoning for those assumptions. Furthermore, she is mentioning technological trends whose viability and affordability are not known yet. Due to the involvement of her father, it is possible that her argument is biased and that might be there might be vested interest for her in this matter as well. Her argument is also devoid of any statistical information to back her claims. However, there are also some strengths to her argumentation. She is experienced in the field on account of her father, and she also has had a lot of examples to support her claim. Her values are clear and easy to understand, and from argumentation, it is clear that she understands the topic. By analyzing the evaluating, it is clear that Seth's argument is more convincing as compared to Graves. Now, again, many of you will be able to identify the same strengths and same weaknesses. I'm pretty sure. I know that you guys are good at that. But the reason that you might still lose marks, the reason that you might still not be able to get 15 out of 16 or 14 out of 16 or in some cases even 16 out of 16 is that you might not follow a good pattern. And this is a trusted pattern. This pattern is tried and tested. The students who followed this pattern, they scored in the high 60s, and so that just gives you a, an idea that okay, so these they are getting good marks in this question at least. Now, coming to the last question, I'll 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 discuss its pattern, but we will continue with its sample answers tomorrow along with the question answer sessions because this PowerPoint is having some issues and some of you want to go. And let's continue with this session tomorrow. What would be the best time for the session tomorrow? Let me tell you. What would be the best time for the session tomorrow, guys? 8 p. 9 p.m. At night. You say? Oh, this is too much, guys. 9 p.m. at night. 8 p.m. 9 p.m. 10 p.m. Who is Snoop? 12 to 1 p.m. 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Everybody wants for 9 p.m. What's wrong with you guys? Okay. So if okay, I'll put on the uh, let me just quickly share the okay. So I'm gonna quickly share what I'm going to share. Yeah, I'm going to share a Google form actually, in which I'm going to ask you guys a few questions. Okay, there's some issue. There's some issue. So I'm gonna share a Google form with you guys uh, today. The what? I don't know. I'm gonna share a Google form with you guys, and then you can tell me what's the best time, and then you can also put all your questions in there. Okay. But before going, I'm just gonna uh, share the pattern of the course of action question, but we are going to uh, cover it tomorrow in detail. Okay. I'll put in a poll. I'll put in a poll, and I'll put in a whatever. So the last question, you have to make sure that you give your answer at the start, then follow it by justification of your answer. Like for example, you are given three choices, and then you give one choice, and then justify why this is the best choice. Followed by that, what you do is that you explain about the other two options. The other two options, which are not, let's say, uh, the uh, chosen options, and and explain why these are not the best options. And finally, when you're done with all this, uh, you give some national or some global perspective on the topic, um, regarding why this is a good option. I'll share a sample answer which will further clarify it. And to wrap it all up, what you do is that you give conclusion. In conclusion, you write why this is the best option. Basically, just rewrite what you've written in the first line, that due to the reasons mentioned above, blah blah blah, this is the best option. I'll share a pattern with you guys tomorrow. I'll also share a form with you guys in the description of this stream in like 5 minutes. It's not allowing me to make a form right now for some reason. I think this may be an error. I may have to close certain windows to make the form. But within like 10 to 15 minutes, I'll share the form. Give me your questions. Give me a time which you guys find is more appropriate, and then we'll do it. Okay. So see you guys tomorrow, inshallah. It's also time we need to break. Okay. Gaming settings. Okay. Bye bye.